इस खुश आइंद और नहायत ही ज़रूरी ब्रेक के बाद जब आप रिन्यूड एनर्जी से वापस आ गए हैं तो एक लेक्चर और बाकी है आपके गोशगरां करना। हमारा जो सेकंड लेक्चर है ये उर्दू की कहानी और माक़ब्ल तारीख़, द स्टोरी एंड प्री हिस्ट्री ऑफ उर्दू पर बेस्ड है, जिसको मेहमान ख़ुसूसी डॉक्टर पेगी मोहन साहिबा आपके गोशगुजार करेंगी। उससे कबल कि मैं डॉक्टर पेगी मोहन को दावत सुखन दूं, हमारे इस सेशन के चेयर प्रोफेसर नसीमुद्दीन फरीद साहब का मैं तहे दिल से इस्तकबाल करता हूं। आप साबिक सदर शोबे उर्दू और साबिक दीन स्कूल ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस, लिंग्विस्टिक्स एंड इंडोलॉजी थे, और इस वक्त प्रोफेसर साहब हमारे डायरेक्टरेट ऑफ डिस्टेंस एजुकेशन में एज अ कंसल्टेंट अपनी खिदमात अंजाम दे रहे हैं। हम उनका खैर मकदम करते हैं। Now, with due respect, I invite Dr. Peggy Mohan for her second lecture on the topic, the story and prehistory of Urdu.
I am here and it is on. ये तो बस हटा लेंगे.
Just 2 minutes.
Okay. We doing the techie things first. सबसे पहले तो कनेक्टिविटी होना चाहिए. वो तो लैंग्वेज तो कनेक्टिविटी के ऊपर बेस्ड है ना. Yes, this is the correct one. So since you have tolerated first few baby steps into linguistics and how people like us think, I will give you some bigger steps now about Urdu. I don't think that I'm not going to talk to you about Ghalib. You can get that in your other courses. I'm not going to talk to you about that much poetry, a little bit, maybe I won't. I am interested in, I did not leave the meeting.
No, you can. Already meeting chal raha hai.
Yeah, inka. I have to wait because my professor also says he wants to listen. And he will find all जितने गलतियां मैं करूंगी वो तो तब से तो आप कुछ सीखी नहीं. That will be a very big problem which I have to deal with. They were expecting my Urdu would be much better by now, but I think I'm very lazy. I'm sorry. Acha. I will start, but I want the display up. Okay. Let it all come together now. Problem nahi hai.
Voice जरा ना clear है. कौन से जाएगा?
Voice तो clear है, पर मतलब तो visuals भी होना चाहिए ना.
Visual थोड़ा disturbance.
तो मतलब जब तक voice clear नहीं है, visuals नहीं आएंगे. Screen share. ये आपका Wi-Fi down है क्या? Okay. Okay. अगर मैं शुरू करूँ और ये तो नहीं होगा, तब क्या होगा? It was okay. पहले तो ठीक था. लंच के लिए गए क्या?
ये ब्रेक टाइम में थोड़ा सेटिंग्स चेंज करें क्योंकि आपको
Does somebody know?
तो
वो हो जाएगा, पर नहीं हो रहा है. Okay, I check your internet speed. I'm sorry about this, but I wanted to start everything together. Oh, this is because of Zoom, right? And whoever is listening on Zoom has to hear also. Google Meet. How long will this take? कितना time लगेगा ये? 10 minutes? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay. I am on the camera, but I want the slides. Or I will start and trust you. The विश्वास होना चाहिए ना कि वो हो जाएगा.
Present नहीं हो रहा. Disturbance.
Look, I like everything set up. I don't want to wait to suddenly reach somewhere and say, तो ये slide कहाँ है? Is everybody upset with me by now? I'm sorry. I am not cool. Yes, slides दिखाइए. Yeah. We are okay? All right. Yeah, this is the lecture now. Everybody thinks Urdu is about literature. And they think that this literature originated in the Deccan, which is also true. But it didn't originate, matlab ki koi khule asman se to nahi aaya tha. Before it became literature, it was spoken. Log to bolte the. I want to look back, because if you look back at what was happening in Urdu, just around the time of the 10th to 12th centuries, you begin to get a sense that it was a very important point in North India where things were beginning to happen. I don't know what happened. 12th century is when Malayalam changed and took in Sanskrit. 12th century is when people started, the Sultanate came into India. 12th century is when Marathi starts showing in the written record a very different kind of writing, not about epics. Bengali. So something about the 12th century was an important time. We didn't call it Urdu at the time. It was called simply Dehlavi. But I want to take you first back so you understand what kind of background we have. Somebody wanted me to talk about Africa. I didn't keep that slide, but I kept another slide, which will tell you, let's go back to the very beginning so we understand who we are and where we came from. There we are. We are talking about, let me just quickly run you through Indian history as I see it. No nizams, just people. I'm only interested in ordinary people because they are the ones who make languages by and large. Okay, you notice that there's a little yellow line up there. Everybody in the world thinks, oh, people left Africa and they went into the Sinai Peninsula, went to Europe. And that's when humans left Africa. That's not actually true. They did try a few times. They were killed every time they went up there, partly because Neanderthals were there. There were various things. Their bones, which we have found, are not linked to any people on Earth now. So basically, the very first people who left Africa successfully and ended up very strongly populating another part of the world were the first Indians. Basically, we're talking of 70,000 years ago when people left at a time when they could not have gone north through the Sinai because it was an ice age. Ice age means that the Sahara was a desert, whereas this area down there between Somalia and Ethiopia, the people who lived there, they had enough vegetation and animals. Nobody was migrating. I used the word migrants somewhere, but no, they were not migrants. Remember, I told you migrants are men. When people came to Africa, to India first, they were men and women. Otherwise, there would never be any women in India, right? They did not migrate. From the point of where they crossed from Africa 70,000 years ago, it took them 5,000 years to cover the distance to the Indus Valley area. So that they were spreading out. There was no exploration, no idea that we are men and we've left our women at home and we're doing this. These are people simply spreading into India. And you can see, and at the time, you notice I put a line around the perimeter of India. because inside of India, it was too dangerous for them to go. There were pre-Homo sapiens hominids in India, and they were in conflict with each other, and it took them thousands of years to get to the stage where they could defeat them and become the people of India. So mostly the previous pre-Homo sapiens peoples of India have died out. There may be some mixture. I have not continued where the line goes, but the line goes to Australia, which is why, and let me pause and tell you something that is in Urdu. It's very much in Urdu. It goes all the way from Africa to Australia, which is ta, da, na. These sounds are African in origin. They came with the first migration. That is the bottom part of the bunyad that you will see of all Indian languages, maybe not in Assam, but that you get a sense that how we build the layers of structure of what is an Indian language. You listen to any Australian Aborigine speaking and you don't see the face, you'll think it's a Tamilian. You go, da, da, na, la. And you think, which Indian is talking? And you turn around and it's an Australian. In the middle of New Guinea, where nobody disturbed people until the 1930s, da. Da, as distinct from ta and da. This is something not only Indian, it goes very far back. So whenever somebody tells you it's Dravidian, no, the Dravidians came quite a bit later. When you think about the difference between 70,000 and 9,000, and people tell you Tamil is a very old language, we're not even talking the same kind of time frame. So first thing you notice about your language is it has a feature that goes back 70,000 years. Da, da, na, la. Well, la is in Marathi. It's in a number of other languages, even up in the Karakorams of Pakistan, there's languages remaining which still have some of these sounds. So you know, these are the first Indians. Second Indians, most probably these are the Dravidians. They came down here, became Tamilians, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalis, not yet very differentiated. What did they do? If these were, they brought some women, but not many. These were a migration. So we have, again, the other layer of the bunyad. These people who came, you notice the map shows them only in the west and going down south. They did not touch the east, or not for a while. Okay? So these were called Iranian farmers because they lived for thousands of years in Iran before they got to India. Everybody came originally from Africa. So to think that the Dravidian has an Iranian origin, okay? This is the Indus Valley civilization, came up later. I will be very happy to tell you that I've discovered that my son-in-law's two parents come from Harappa, which is now in Pakistan. So I feel very strongly that my family is linked to this whole lovely migration and something very, very old, not the Sanskrit people. They came to. Yeah, they did. We'll talk about them too. Okay, so you're getting a sense of the layers building up, that they came and initially they were in Baluchistan, but later we got Harappa, we got Mohenjo-daro. You know about all of this, right? And again, only west. And here come, I'm not going to go into the east. Before these Vedic people came, a few hundred years earlier, people did come from the west, from the east, from Southeast Asia, which is why Bengalis are the way they are, and say Ekta, Duta, because this is an Asian feature. Let's not get into all of that, but you notice I'm only going with the northwest, partly because Urdu is the giddy limit of the northwest. It is the end of the northwest. After that comes the Allahabad and two rivers coming together. And in historic times, we had forests on the other side, and Magadhans, a different kind of people. So I always think of the Dehlavi language and the Hindi-related dialects as being the eastern edge of the Northwest. And that's very important because the Vedic people, when they came to India, they didn't stay in the Northwest. They eventually moved to where is now pretty much Delhi, because by the time they wrote the second, third, and fourth Vedas, they were in the Doab area, right? Am I making sense? You're getting a sense of it building up because Urdu is old. It is much older than just literature that we happen to have now. Okay. I don't know what we had before the 12th century. We are dependent on wo jo kuch likhit hai, hum wo dekh sakte hain, unless there's something memorized, and that was not happening with things like Urdu and Marathi. But by the 12th century, you start seeing modern languages. This was not called Urdu. It was called Dehlavi. You had Marathi, and you probably all over what is now Pakistan had a number of languages which did not yet come together as the big ones. But the important thing about Urdu is it was always strategically located in the heart of the empire, which is Delhi. So it would have a very important role in whatever was going to happen with languages in the country. Yeah? So the point I'm making by saying 12th century and possibly 10th, I don't know how much earlier. Yes, we don't know. It could be 5th century. It could be 6th century. We just don't have the evidence. I'm trying to guess that something might have happened. What were they speaking before they spoke this Dehlavi? Well, what were the poor people speaking? Since Prakrit was mentioned, the rich people were speaking Prakrit. The educated people were writing in Prakrit. What were the poor people speaking? It's a very important question, because if nobody was bothering them, they were speaking languages linked to the Indus Valley languages, which were probably not yet extinct. So at you have these languages were still around, and Prakrits were only affecting educated people, and suddenly towns like Delhi coming up, important places. And why do we have Dehlavi? Because suddenly people who are writing and leaving us records were not Brahmins and kings. Kings will write about Mahabharata, Ramayana, epics. Brahmins will write about religion. These people were writing about dhanda. They were writing about, mera list kahan hai, mera stock kahan se aaya, ye nahi aaya, ye legal, main aapko adalat leke jaunga. So these were legal things. So this is a very big change that was happening at that time. A different kind of people was suddenly becoming important and leaving traces. And we got to know कि Sanskrit Prakrit ke alawa kuch aur tha. And we don't know much until people like Amir Khusro came. And, where do I get him? I'm sure I have him here. This is 12th century, 13th century, sorry, he was a little later. Look at it. Khusro darya prem ka ulti waki dhar, jo utra so dub gya, jo duba so par. If I told you this was written in the 13th century, would you believe me? It's important for you to know that it's Urdu, but it didn't have that name yet, and the name does not matter. Look at it and see that this is the thing that you call Urdu now. And there was Waki Dhar, okay, that is from Awadhi. And there's a little bit of, maybe things were not so stable yet, but the point being that this is the first evidence that we get. Amir Khusro coming. It doesn't mean he made this language. He didn't make it. He came and he found it there. There was many languages around at the time. There was Braj, there was Awadhi, there was Gujarati, there was Punjabi, there were Miss Bengali, all these languages he found, and he was very careful to not mix it up too much. If he's writing this particular thing in Dehlavi, he will keep it in Dehlavi. So he's very useful for evidence that what happened in the 12th century was nothing strange. It looked like something we will recognize. If I, Amma mere baba ko bhejo ji, hello, read, listen to the whole thing. When did he write that? You know, there are people who don't believe that. They think maybe there was some other Amir Khusro. Ki nahi, it's a very common name. Maybe there's somebody else. No. The 12th and 13th century was very, very familiar. So by then we had something coming up. It's just it didn't have a name yet. Just like how many of you had COVID before COVID had a name? I did. But it just came from Wuhan. I had COVID, but it didn't have a name. So nobody made me stay home from work. Nobody made me wear a mask. You understand that it's the same thing, right? So let me go back now. I'm going to make some of you to read things. Okay. Just around this point, I put this before because here comes the migration from Central Asia. Okay. This is the two migrations, not at the same time. This is the people from basically Uzbekistan. They may have called themselves Turkestan. There's no place by that name now. It's Uzbekistan. You'll see it properly on the map then. But you get a sense of the coming down through Afghanistan to a little further inland. They came to Delhi. So they came and met a language which is said, hello, this will do very well. Okay? And I'll explain that a little later. This is where they came from. Uzbekistan, not general Uzbekistan. Some came from where you see up in on the right-hand side of the map, you'll see Farghana and Andijan. Farghana is actually where Babur was born, and many of them were from that area. And so you could see it's quite east. It's going into almost the Uyghur territory. They had a very old language as their main language. I tried to dissect and figure out what it was like in the old days. The point is, look at another thing. When you think of the Mughals and you think of what went with Urdu, what is the language that you normally think of? Persian, right? Okay. Here, Persia is this thing at the bottom. In between Uzbekistan and Persia, there's Turkmenistan. So, I mean, Uzbekistan is not really close to Persia. It's just that entire general area. Now, of course, history is a funny thing. Modern day Iran thinks it is a place which is quite separate from Central Asia. But उस ज़माने में वो बोलते थे Khorasan-e-Buzurg, which is the big, greater Iran place, not by conquest. So you had this whole area was a place where, just as I am lecturing to you in English, पर कभी-कभी मैं उर्दू में भी बात करती हूँ, they would lecture to you in Persian and कभी-कभी Uzbek में बात करते थे. They had the same relationship between Persian and Uzbek, जैसे अब यहाँ हो रहा है English and Urdu में. So you see, this is where they came from. There's a bit of Tajikistan. I know people from there too. Okay. Who likes to read? Forget the first line. That's too easy. First line is too easy. This is the opening line of Baburnama. If you can't read it, I will read it for you. Having problems? Some words you can recognize and some you don't? Correct. This is not Persian. It's not Persian at all. This is the opening line of Baburnama, which is why in Uzbekistan, they don't even care whether he was the emperor of India. They say he was the first great Uzbek writer. And it's very beautiful if you can feel the actual language. I'll read it for you. Notice, first of all, if you see a smudge upon the middle line, somebody saw my Urdu handwriting and said, no, I will take it to Tehran and get a proper thing done by a calligrapher. And the guy did, but he was a great calligrapher, but he made many spelling mistakes. इतनी सारी गलतियां थी तो वो वापस भेजना था ये भाई सही करने के लिए वो 5 बार वो गलतियां देख के भेज दिया वापस, because this is not Persian. This is okay. I shall read. Ramazan ayı tarih 899 99'da Fergana vilayetinde 12 yaşta padişah oldum. That is the opening line of Baburnama. You get a sense straight away what they spoke. And this is not something strange. In India, it has happened so many times that men have come into this country, into this land, speaking something and writing something else. The Sanskrit, they came into this land with doing the Rig Veda. They were speaking something else, and we don't know what it was. Nambudri Brahmins went into Kerala. They knew all the Rig Veda. They spoke something else. We still don't know what it was, except in the case of these people who came from Central Asia, हमें पता है कि इसी जुबान में कम से कम बात करते थे. लिखते तो नहीं थे, वो he did, but उसके बाद करते नहीं थे. They moved pretty much to Persian. When you have children and your children go to work for Google in California, वो कौन सी जुबान लेके जाएंगे? ये तो थोड़ा बहुत याद होगा ये कि हाँ ये कुछ उर्दू वैसी चीज थी, but they will speak English just as Babur took Persian. So this is a very common thing that happened in the history of this land. Sanskrit, we don't know what they spoke. It must have been like a Prakrit, we're only guessing. So people basically throw their languages. There were people who spoke this language in India, and they went to Bengal. Any Bengalis here in the audience? You know the word Uzbek? Uzbek is an old word which means बेवकूफ. So anybody who speaks इस तरह की बोली is a बेवकूफ क्योंकि उनको फारसी नहीं आती. अगर मुगल लोग ये सुल्तानेट लोग की बात सुननी है, कम से कम फारसी में होना चाहिए. अगर उज़्बेक में है वो तो उज़्बेक लोग है, अनपढ़ गंवार. So that is why as soon as these people came to India, they said, well, इसका कोई use नहीं है. What we are using it for, there is already a language here. We will write in Persian, but we can speak in this Dehlavi. So pretty soon, the men who came and married local women, their children were already speaking Dehlavi and learning at some age to write in Persian. They kept the two of them quite separate because Persian, you might notice, doesn't have dirt, her. But Urdu has it, correct? So they kept these two separate. They threw away Uzbek. I challenge you to find 10 Uzbek words in Urdu. Urdu is an Uzbek word. It's itself an Urdu word. Apa, khala, khalu, what else? There are one or two more. Not very many. Words to do with your family will be kept. But what else? It's like when your daughter goes to live in California, she knows ye nani hai, ye nana hai, wo to mamu hai. Baki will speak in English. And if she needs a second language, my granddaughter, it will not be an Indian language. It will not be Uzbek. Her second language is Spanish, which is her local language. So she knows her English for her important things and her Spanish for playing with children and so. So you're getting a sense of what happens when languages come. These people came, they brought this language, they had no particular regard for it. कि वो पढ़े लिखे लोग फारसी में बात करते हैं. By the way, I know that that couplet doesn't mean exactly that, but you know, padhe likhe log should be with Farsi. And we are not padhe likhe log, but we're not going to speak Uzbek. We'll speak Dehlavi. So that is how the relationship comes between Dehlavi and Persian. And why was Dehlavi such an important language? It was not the best language. I mean, we had Braj, we had Awadhi. They had a lot of literature. Dehlavi was nothing much. Can be a capital city mein tha. Location, everything matters where the language came. So Urdu, what grew up to be Urdu, had the best boost in the world. Ki it was in the capital city. So nothing else mattered. It didn't matter if it didn't have a literature. We had Persian for literature, but the language that these people would speak when they're not writing Persian or speaking Persian or being serious will be Dehlavi. Does it make sense how things go? This is it. I've written it in all detail for anyone who wants to know the exact meanings of the words and how many of these are. You can see that the words are not Persian words. Yeah? You ask any Turk to listen to this, they'll tell you they know what you're saying. Ask any Iranian, unless they're from Tabriz, they won't know. So, you get this. Okay, we have a long time period when Urdu is mainly spoken in the north and Dakhini is spoken in the south. But writing is not in these. While there is Dakhini poetry in the south and not in the north, there's not. Persian is really the language of major literature. So, Urdu is not silent, it exists, but it is not written. Definitely, now I'm talking about the north. In the north, Urdu is not important. You will hear a few poems remembered, but nobody's going to sit and write an epic in Urdu. And maybe they will write their shopping lists. They might write some legal issue, but why would they not do that in Persian? If you're a kind of person who writes, you can do it in Persian. So Urdu was there in the air. It was not there on the paper. And you have to remember that it was there for centuries before it got to be a written thing. And as luck would have it, first time it was used in something serious more than just writing a note, I want 10 alus and I want some pyaz, was in the Deccan. And Jafar Zatali, I don't have the exact date, but it's close to, and this is not Dakhini, huh? This lecture is not about Dakhini, this one's about Urdu. Look at it. It's not completely modern Urdu. It's mixed in some funny way. But I can't completely handle the top line. Who's good at this kind of rekhta? Does somebody understand it? So this is what the first time, I think, more or less, somebody wrote something in rekhta, not trying to make it difficult at all, making it simple. Jise pihu chahe, suhagan wohi. You know, and what did he call the language? I put it into pink for you, or whatever color. He didn't call it Urdu. The word Urdu did not exist. It's like COVID didn't exist until we were told that what we had was COVID. We just had a very bad flu, and some of us died. So Urdu was there. He was. The important thing to look at is the poets who wrote in rekhta is where they were born. He was born in Narnaul, a place you don't hear of anymore, but it's very close to Delhi. So these people were coming down from the north into the Deccan area, and because there was encouragement for their work. And at some point, he decided that he did not want to just write to the kind of people you write to in Persian. कि थोड़ा बहुत political बात होना चाहिए, कुछ complaint है ये वो तो government के खिलाफ, औरंगजेब के खिलाफ. He was Obviously, the emperor, that he got into a lot of trouble. But the point is that he decided he will write for ordinary people, and I must get away from writing in Persian. Now, if Rekhta has Persian in it, it isn't because they're trying to put it in there. They are trying to take it out of there, and some is remaining because they don't have those words, because it's serious poetry also. They're trying to say things that they didn't say before or never said before in Urdu. And what do you do if you can't say these things? You say it in Persian. What do you say when you're writing in Malayalam and you're writing an epic and you don't have that word in Malayalam? You write it in Sanskrit. And what am I doing when I'm trying to give you a talk and I can't get out of English very well? इसमें तो आपको कोई मतलब किसी को problem नहीं है ना समझने में? I am trying to be a little bit slow. But supposing I फर्ज करिए कि मैं उर्दू में बात करती, कभी कभी ऐसा होता कि मैं इंग्लिश में slip करूं. Right? So this kind of slippage brought the Persian in, that they didn't know how to say this thing in Urdu, because Urdu was not for this. If I had to talk to you about ordinary things, how to change the lights in the room, how to order food, what kind of clothes you should get, I could do that very well in Urdu. What I can't do in Urdu is linguistics. And what they couldn't do in Urdu was philosophy. And so they took these words from Persian. So here we have Bahindi das Hindi Zuban. So Hindi. Until this time, they were still calling it Dehlavi or Hindi. And my point is that Hindi and Urdu are not two separate languages. It's the same language, which sometimes it can wear a coat, sometimes it can wear leggings, sometimes it'll put on earrings, sometimes it'll cut its hair in a different way. None of this touches the genetic code. I can wear this, I can wear a sari, I can wear jeans, but I am still the same genetic person. So Urdu and Hindi were never considered separate. To this day, it is still called, 1700, it's called Hindi. But 1780, for the first time, the word Urdu is used. And it is a couplet by Mushafi. You can read it. Somebody can read it with much more flow than me. You want to do it? Ah. Yeah. It is 1761. 61. I was told 80. Okay. I was given this number. I can't go back to the fellow who told me this because he died, unfortunately. So it's 1761. Okay, a little earlier. But still, that is amazingly late, considering this language has been around since the 12th century. Okay, so in a way, this is the person, Mushafi, right? Who has used the word, and he's taken this word, which is interesting because Urdu is an Uzbek word. He took it. And Urdu is basically, I can't exactly say, I know what it means in Turkish, but I can't say what it means in Uzbek. But Urdu means the army. And in singular, Urdular would mean soldiers. So, but I think in Uzbek it meant community, you know? So I know that in Turkey, if you want to say, oh, Urdu is here, I mean, the army is here, it's a very modern, normal word to use. So here you get a sense of how late the identity came. And just look at the time. What was happening in the Mughal Empire then? It was the British were here. The British were a very big threat. So that Urdu, and the metaphor I use is ki, like, aapko pata hai wo dragonflies kya hote hain? Ki they wait as an egg for many, 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 many years. Atab, oh, पैदा हो जाते हैं, one day. Ek din ke liye, they fly, and that is their life. Their life has been waiting for a long time to start. And this Urdu only came up and came alive at the time when it was under threat from the British. The whole empire was about to fall. Yeah? Okay, I don't want to go very far. I don't want to go into the modern age, but who wants to read this for me? And then after that, you can tell me who wrote it. I'm not going to tell you. भाई क्या पूछते हैं, क्या लिखूं? दिल्ली की हस्ती मुनहसर कई हंगामों पर थी। किला, चांदनी चौक, हर रोज मजमा बाजारे जामा मस्जिद का, हर हफ्ते सैर जमुना के पुल की, हर साल मेला फूल वालों का। ये पांचों बातें अब नहीं, फिर कहो दिल्ली कहाँ? हाँ, कोई शहर कलमराव हिंद में इस नाम का था। Who? Yes. Who? How did you know? How did you know? I actually went and looked through all his books to try to find something else, which I found, and I saw this and I liked it. I took out my phone and I photographed the page. The point I'm making in this, by showing this and not his ghazals, is this is how the man spoke. He was not so strange. His Urdu was not something that you would not recognize. He wrote his ghazals in a very, what I will call, cryptic. Kabhi yahan koi log crosswords karte hain, Hindu crossword. Hindu crossword is cryptic. Matlab, it is not immediately obvious what the answer will be. He wants you to stop and think. Why does he want you to stop and think? Because if agar saaf bolte to shayad jail jate. He is in danger. So under those conditions, and also his style, he writes his kind of ghazals where you have to take time and think about it and know the context where he's writing. Ki British log aaye hue hain. He's wanting a pension. The man is borrowing money for everything to live. But this is how he actually speaks. And the Khutut-e-Ghalib were collected 50 years after he died. He didn't show them to the public. This is his complaint about the world, which he cannot write in such a clean way in his poetry. The point I'm making is if you look at the last three, the beginning of protest and reaching out to people, and the end of the protest, after which you kind of feel like the string of the sitar breaks. You're still hearing the sound of Urdu. But the thing that was the emperor giving him his money to do his poetry, that had come to an end. So you can see, I've given you a different picture of it in historical time, political time. Why did Urdu come in the first place? What is it based on? How long it was there like an egg waiting to be born, only spoken and not written. And it came to life in the Deccan, not in the north, just at the time when the empire was coming to an end. And in fact, there's quite a lot more that Ghalib wrote. I can't remember all, but basically he destroyed some of his work because he thought he would be in danger if some of that work got out, and we would do anything to have it now. We think he's very important. He was a man who was struggling to have money to live. So I don't think I think this is it, yes. Basically, I wanted to give you a different picture from what you normally get. You know more about literature than I will ever know. But that it came from a context. There was a political and historical reason why things came up this way. Then we can go further and talk about what the British did to separate the two. And they used their money in the schooling system that anything written in Persian script, you get a different budget. And if you write in Hindi was not written in Devanagari until that time. If it was not written in Urdu script, it was written in things like Kaithi, Mahajani, Moriya. It was not written in Devanagari. Whenever you see an Indian language written in Devanagari, suspect the British. Because Marathi, Hindi, I think maybe Nepali, that is a 19th century thing. We didn't write in Devanagari before that. And then the division came and other things happened. You want to hear a little? That Persian was there. Imagine, let us say that the Mughals were your old boyfriend. You have broken up with him. New boyfriend is there, the British. He cannot stand to see all this man's clothes all around your house. He wants them removed. So they believe that they can remove the Persian words from the legal system, from the way people speak in any case in Urdu. They were very disturbed at how much was there. They thought what we can do, if we take out these Persian words, we will put in Sanskrit. There's a big flaw in that argument. That Hindi is not Malayalam. Only Malayalam got words from Sanskrit. Not a single North Indian language got words from Sanskrit. They got it from the Prakrits. And if you didn't know how to go to the Prakrits, you would make something that sounds like Malayalam. And that is why it just did not feel right. So they took out the Urdu words, they stuck in Sanskrit words, put a syntax that is English, prati, bandhit, kshetra. That is not an Indian way of phrasing something. They use Sanskrit the way they knew how to use Latin. So then they pushed a division between Hindi and Urdu. The script was now different. The words were going to be now different. And pretty soon you got children thinking, how interesting, when they speak Urdu, to samajh aata hai, to ये कैसे हो सकता है, कुछ ज़्यादा वो फर्क नहीं है. The same grammar, the same mostly words, but that it was a division that was pushed in order for the British to be able to put themselves somewhere in the scheme of things. So this is where I've got you to. Until then, nobody cared whether it was Hindi or Urdu, or which community it belonged to. You have people like Mohan Singh, and I'm from the north, so a lot of our ancestors and family, they didn't study in Hindi, they studied in Urdu. Why? Because that is what boys learn. Boys learned Urdu and girls learned Hindi. Do you know that? And in Muslim families, it went a different way, that boys learned Urdu and girls learned Awadhi or whatever, because it was understood that Urdu was not for women. So it was a very strange set of things that were happening, and all of a sudden boys are not supposed to do it. So when you hear Mohan Singh give a speech from the teleprompter, he's looking at it like this to read the Hindi. He can't do it. And Urdu comes, and it's not the same man. He's reading with great style, because his education has always been in Urdu. So you get a sense of how, when the British came, they tried to change this. And now we are in the mess that we are in. I brought you to present times because I think I should go that far. The rest we can discuss. I don't know how long. Nobody is telling me hurry up or anything. So I think I will leave it here, and your questions will take me where I need to go. I'm sorry I gave a lecture on Urdu with less Urdu than my lecture on Dakhini. पर वो मेरे ख्याल से आप सब समझ गए थे ना? मैं तो वैसे कोई मुश्किल चीज नहीं बोल रही हूँ ना? Okay.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर पेगी मोहन, एक नहायत ही मालूमाती और दिलचस्प लेक्चर सीरीज़ के लिए। अब हाउस ओपन है क्वेश्चन आंसर्स के लिए, और आज के जो चेयर हैं प्रोफेसर नसीमुद्दीन साहब, उनसे गुजारिश है कि वो कमेंट्स भी अपने पेश कर सकते हैं। जी, अगर आपके पास कोई सवाल हो तो आप अपने सवालात पेश करें।
I have to answer, but कोई सवाल है ही नहीं।
माइक दे।
I just had another idea. There are two Urdus. One is Dehlavi Urdu, another is a Mongolian Urdu.
The
Mongolian Urdu. A Mongolian language is also called as Urdu.
probably it could be.
Yeah, it is there even now. Okay. That language probably used by the armies. That was used by the army. And now these armies as mercenaries move from northern highlands to the Central Asian highlands to came down to the India, right? Probably on their way, they have acquired many other dialects of these original Mongolian Urdu. And then when they reached India, they have actually, that was a kind of a transient Urdu, and now they gave up and then actually adapted Dehlavi.
And they gave up, and
they gave up that Mongolian Urdu, and then they have adopted the Dehlavi Urdu.
okay,
That is the means.
okay.
That Dehlavi.
See, now this is the problem when we do linguistics. A lot of these are very interesting hypotheses. We have to prove it. That is my problem. Like, I am now stuck with certain things I want to prove about Urdu, but I can only say something if I can give evidence. Like, I know that looking at Chagatai, it looks like the Uzbek of that time. I don't have all their information. It had changed already. Uzbek is the language which is much more similar sounding to Urdu than, say, Azeri or Turkish or... Huh?
Uzbek is a Turkic language.
Yes, but the point I'm making is, if you hear Turkish, it's full of funny vowels, like, unlike like the word khabar, there's no kha, there's no khe, it is haber.
But it's like Mongolian influence.
But no, it's definitely there in Uzbek. So it's a little bit more complicated than that. All the khe, ghain, and qaf are there in Uzbek, but they're not in Turkish. So what is happening? It's a complicated situation, and one has to be sure that if one says that a language got infiltrated with something, you have to tell me the process. Because I can tell you the process is, if you marry a woman who speaks that way, your children will do something. But you have to have how did it happen? Like, I can say, how do you make halim? You put this and you put this. But what is the process? What turns it into halim and not into something else? So the process is very important when you talk about anything that is mixing, you know? So I don't tend to, I'm not very happy saying that people who make a short trip, Uzbekistan to India is not a very long distance. They don't need to make a lot of languages on the way. You can come in a matter of months. So,
but they are not coming actually in one single moment. They are coming making some months through. So it was probably more than a couple of years.
But that is not a long time. The time for making a language is approximately a generation, so 15 years. And the other thing is, these people were not the Mongols. They were actually, to a great extent, a lot of the people who came as Muslims to India were not coming to fight anybody. They were coming to get away from Mongols. So the Uzbeks had seen what had happened.
Uzbeks, when you say, the language is different, but they carry the name Uzbek. And then they come down as the Urdus. And then actually take over the language of the local place here, the Dehlavi language.
But if you look at the time frame that we're talking of, the word Urdu was not applied to the language for many hundreds of years. Like, if they came down approximately in the beginning of 1300, and it's the middle of 1700 when the word Urdu is first used. For a long time, it was called nothing in particular, Dehlavi, Hindi mainly. So I want to go by that. It's nice to speculate. I speculate all the time. And then suddenly I find I fall flat on my face because the data tells me, no, this didn't happen. So I need to go with proofs that it's a nice idea, but you have to prove it. Because, as I said, the distance from Uzbekistan to India is not very much. You can cover that distance in a matter of months and on a horse. And that's not long enough to change a language. You don't even have children on the way. These are men. Yeah? Yeah. But you see, your way is more complicated. If it is true, then one should accept it. But it is an unnecessary amount of extra work that you're adding. Yeah, okay.
सर आप सर का कमेंट उसके बाद फिर इंशाल्लाह खत्म करते हैं जी आइए तशरीफ
मोहतरम जनाब प्रोफेसर इम्तियाज़ हसनैन साहब, सदर मौलाना आज़ाद चेयर मानू, और आज की स्पीकर डॉक्टर पेगी मोहन साहिबा, और यहाँ हाल में तशरीफ़ फरमा प्रोफेसर शगुफ्ता साहिबा, जिन्होंने इस प्रोग्राम के इनेकाद में अहम हिस्सा लिया, प्रोफेसर अजीज़ बानो साहिबा, डीन स्कूल ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस, लिंग्विस्टिक्स एंड इंडोलॉजी, प्रोफेसर अलीम अशरफ साहब, सदर शोबे अरबी, प्रोफेसर मुसरत जहां साहिबा, प्रोफेसर आमिना किशोर साहिबा, साबिक़ खडीन मानू, और मुख्तलिफ स्कूल्स से तशरीफ़ लाए प्रोफेसर्स, असातिज़ा साहिबान, रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स और अजीज़ तलबा व तालिबात। सबसे पहले मैं मुबारकबाद देना चाहूँगा प्रोफेसर इम्तियाज़ हसनैन साहब को कि उन्होंने मौलाना आज़ाद चेयर के ज़रिए तमाम आज के इस प्रोग्राम का इनेकाद अमल में लाया और नहायत ही आलिमाना और बहुत ही मालूमाती लेक्चर्स से हम सबको इस्तिफ़ादे का मौका मिला। सुबह 3 बजे से तकरीबन हम कुछ ये लेक्चर्स सुन रहे हैं। 2 पहला लेक्चर डॉक्टर पेगी मोहन ने दक्कनी ज़बान के ताल्लुक़ से कहा और दूसरा लेक्चर उर्दू ज़बान तारीख़ व माक़बल तारीख़, स्टोरी एंड प्री हिस्ट्री, इस उन्वान से दिया। दोनों लेक्चर नहायत अच्छे थे, नहायत मालूमाती थे, और सबसे ज़्यादा हैरत अंगेज़ बात यह है कि आपने कनाडा की होते हुए फिर कैरिबियन में रिसर्च की और फिर दक्कनी पर काम किया। ये हम सब के लिए एक काबिल तक़लीद मिसाल है कि तहक़ीक़ के लिए इलाक़ा और नस्ल की कोई क़ैद नहीं होती है। कोई भी फ़र्द किसी भी ज़बान पर तहक़ीक़ कर सकता है, चाहे वो दुनिया के किसी भी इलाक़े से ताल्लुक़ रखता हो। दोपहर के दूसरे लेक्चर में आपने जो बातें कहीं वो बुनियादी तौर पर नहायत अहम हैं, और इस लिहाज से अहम है कि अरसे दराज से हम सुन रहे हैं कि उर्दू एक गैर मुल्की ज़बान है, बदेसी ज़बान है, लेकिन आपने इसका रिश्ता 70,000 साल क़ब्ल से जोड़कर उर्दू के लिए एक मजबूत बुनियाद फराहम की कि उर्दू बुनियादी तौर पर हिंदुस्तान की ज़बान है। ये आज के दौर में बड़ी इस मौक़िफ़ की बड़ी अहमियत और बड़ी मानवियत है, वरना आमतौर पर उर्दू वाले भी यही समझते हैं कि उर्दू का रिश्ता संस्कृत से है और इस लिहाज से वो 2,500-3 हज़ार साल पुरानी है, लेकिन आपने उसको माक़बल तारीख़ प्री हिस्टोरिकल पीरियड में पहुँचाकर एक नया और इनकलाबी तस्वुर दिया है उर्दू वालों को कि उर्दू गैर मुल्की ज़बान नहीं है बल्कि हिंदुस्तानी से ताल्लुक़ रखती है। इस सिलसिले में आपने बहुत सारे क़बाइल का, बहुत सारी हिजरतों का जिक्र किया जो अफ्रीका से हिंदुस्तान की तरफ हुई, پھر قدیم ہندوستانی جو ہومو اسپینس تھے ان کا ذکر کیا، اور افریقی آوازیں جو ہیں ٹا ڈا نا لا اس کا ذکر کیا. اس میں ایک تھوڑا سا میں آپ سے عرض کرنا چاہوں گا کہ اردو میں جو معکوسی لا نا ہے یہ آوازیں نہیں ہیں. ہاں پتہ نہیں اس کی وجہ کیا ہے. نا کی آواز نہیں ہے، لا کی آواز نہیں ہے. معکوسی نا اور معکوسی لا نہیں پائی جاتی ہیں. اور پھر آپ نے یہ بتایا کہ پراکرت اعلیٰ طبقے کی زبان تھی. یقیناً اعلیٰ طبقے کی زبان تھی، لیکن اس زمانے میں جہاں تک ہمیں پتہ چلا ہے کہ جو تعلیم یافتہ طبقہ ہوتا تھا، جو اعلیٰ ایلیٹ کلاس جو ہوتی تھی، وہ سنسکرت میں بات کرتی تھی، پڑھتی تھی، لکھتی تھی. لیکن یہی زبان کچھ صدیوں گزرنے کے بعد پراکرت بنی، اور پھر اس میں مزید سمپلیفیکیشن کا عمل ہوا اور بہت ساری مقامی زبانوں کے الفاظ اس میں داخل ہوئے، تو پھر یہ اپبھرنش کا روپ وجود میں آیا، اور اس طرح سے زبانیں ارتقا کرتی گئیں. اور جہاں تک جنوب کا تعلق ہے، جنوب کی جو زبانیں ہیں، چاہے وہ تیلگو ہو، کناڈا ہو یا ملیالم ہو، ان کا لسانی خاندان جو ان کی جو فیملی ہے وہ دراویڈین لینگویجز کی فیملی ہے. ہاں، تو آپ کا کہنا یہ ہے کہ ہماری جو بنیاد ہے اردو کی وہ دراویڈین ہے، لیکن اب تک کا جو تصور تھا کہ وہ انڈو آرین ہند آریائی شاخ سے تعلق رکھتی ہے اردو، اور اس کا رشتہ سنسکرت سے ملتا ہے. تو یہ بیسک فرق ہے. اور یہ بات پاکستان میں سہیل بخاری نے بھی کہی تھی. شوکت سبزواری نے یہ تصور پیش کیا تھا کہ اردو دراوڑی زبان ہے. اس پر بہت سارے لنگوسٹکس نے اعتراضات بھی کیے کہ یہ کیسے ہو سکتا ہے، لیکن پھر انہوں نے اپنے موقف سے رجوع بھی کر لیا اور وہ واپس بھی آ گئے. لیکن ایک مرتبہ پھر ہم یہ بات سن رہے ہیں، ایک دعویٰ سن رہے ہیں ہم کہ اردو دراوڑی زبان ہے، یہ ہماری بنیاد اردو کی دراویڈین ہے. تو اس کے لیے آپ نے آوازوں کا ثبوت پیش کیا ہے، یہ قابل غور ہے. اچھا اور کامیاب لیکچر وہی ہوتا ہے جو سوالات کھڑے کرے اور ہم کو مزید سوچنے اور غور کرنے پر مجبور کرے. میڈم، میں آپ کو یقین دلاتا ہوں کہ آپ کے لیکچر کی وجہ سے ہمارے ذہنوں میں نئی کھڑکیاں کھلی ہیں اور ہم نئے اینگلز سے سوچنے کے لیے مجبور ہو گئے ہیں. ہم سوچیں گے انشاءاللہ اور غور کریں گے کہ اردو کے رشتے کس طرح بنے ہیں اور کن زبانوں میں اردو کا وجود ہم کو مل سکتا ہے. جہاں تک جنوب کی زبانوں کا تعلق ہے، میں آپ کو اپنا مشاہدہ بتاؤں کہ جنوب میں ایک دکنی نہیں ہے. جنوب میں آپ مدراس جائیں گے تو وہاں کی دکنی الگ ہے، اور آپ بنگلور جائیں گے، میسور جائیں گے تو وہاں کی دکنی الگ ہے، اور حیدرآباد آئیں گے تو یہاں کی دکنی الگ ہے، تلنگانہ کے ریجن کی، اور مرہٹواڑہ میں جائیں گے تو وہاں کی دکنی بالکل الگ ہے. تلنگانہ کے ریجن میں جیسا کہا گیا کہ جاکو آتوں، تو یہ ٹھیٹ تیلگو فقرے کا ترجمہ ہے، پوئی وستانو، جا کے آتا ہوں. اس کے پیچھے ایک بلیف بھی ہے میڈم، کلچر کا بہت گہرا رشتہ ہوتا ہے زبانوں سے نا. ایک سپرسٹیشن یہ ہے کہ اگر ہم یہ کہیں کہ میں جاتا ہوں تو مطلب ہے کہ مر جائیں گے، واپس پلٹ کر نہیں آئیں گے. تو اس لیے سپرسٹیشن کو دور کرنے کے لیے کہتے ہیں جا کے آتا ہوں. آؤں گا نہیں، لیکن محض سپرسٹیشن ایک توہم کے طور پر اس کو رد کرنے کے لیے اس خیال کو کہتے ہیں پوئی وستان، جا کے آتا ہوں. اتڑو وستانانی چپاڑو، وہ آتوں بول کے بولا، اور بول کے بولا تیلگو کا ہے. یہ جو مقامی اثر پڑتا ہے مقامی کلچر کا اور مقامی زبانوں کی ایک مثالیں ہیں کہ ہم لوگ جو ہے جو پڑوسی زبانیں ہیں، پڑوسی زبانیں دوسری زبانیں بولنے والے لوگ ہیں، ان سے متاثر ضرور ہوتے ہیں. لیکن حیرت انگیز طور پر میں آپ کو بتاتا ہوں کہ بول چال کی زبان میں جو مقامی اثرات، لوکل ایلیمنٹس ہیں، وہ دکنی کے تحریری ٹیکسٹ میں آپ کو نہیں ملیں گے، بڑی حد تک نہیں ملیں گے. کی جو آپ نے کہا ہے، کی نہیں کی، وہ کی آپ کو نہیں ملے گا دکنی کے ٹیکسٹ، اولڈ ٹیکسٹ میں نہیں ملے گا، مینuscripts میں نہیں ہے، بول چال میں ہے. اور جو لسانیاتی بحثیں ہوتی ہیں، لسانیاتی مطالعے ہوتے ہیں، ان کا فوکس اسپوکن لینگویج ہوتی ہے، تحریری زبان ذرا کم ہی ہوتی ہے. اگر اسپوکن لینگویج کے پروف نہ ملیں تبھی تحریری زبان کی طرف رجوع کرنا پڑتا ہے، ورنہ ایک ماہر لسانیات کا اصل فوکس ہوتا ہے جو اسپوکن لینگویج ہوتی ہے اس کا اسٹرکچر کیسا ہے, وہ کیسے بنی ہے. تو اس اعتبار سے کی تو ہے ہمارے پاس, لیکن ریٹن لینگویج میں وہ کی نہیں ہے. اردو کے ناموں کے تعلق سے ذکر کیا گیا, تو میں آپ کو بتاتا ہوں کہ اردو کے جو قدیم تحریر روپ ملتا ہے ہم کو دکن سے پہلے گجری زبان میں ملتا ہے. گجری زبان کے ایک شاعر ہیں بہاؤالدین باجن, انہوں نے کہا ہے بزبان دہلوی نبشتہ, زبان دہلوی میں لکھ رہا ہوں. پہلی مرتبہ انہوں نے اس کو زبان دہلوی کا نام دیا تھا. پھر اس کے بعد ہم ادھر آتے ہیں تو دیکھتے ہیں کہ میرا جی شمس الشاخ اور ان کے بیٹے برہان الدین جانم اس کو گجری کہتے ہیں. بیجاپور کے پوئٹس ہیں اور حضرت گیسودراس کے سلسلے سے تعلق رکھتے ہیں, لیکن جو زبان وہ لکھ رہے ہیں اپنے پوئمس میں اس کو وہ گجری کہتے ہیں. پھر بعد میں اور آگے چلتا ہے یہ سلسلہ تو پھر اس کو ہندوی اور ہندی کہتے ہیں. لیکن وجہی جب 1635 میں سبرس لکھتا ہے تو کہتا ہے کہ زبان ہندوستان, وہ اس کو اسی زبان کو زبان ہندوستان کے نام سے یاد کرتا ہے. اور جب میر کہتے ہیں تو گفتگو ریختہ میں ہم سے نہ کر, گفتگو ریختہ میں ہم سے نہ کر, یہ ہماری زبان ہے پیارے. تو ریختہ بھی اس زبان کا ایک نام رہا. اور اردو تو بہت بعد میں, جیسا کہ آپ نے کہا کہ مصحفی کے پاس ملتا ہے. مصحفی کے تعلق سے ہمارے دوست ڈاکٹر زاہد صاحب نے کچھ تصحیح کی. اصل میں مصحفی کا یہ شعر دیوان چہارم میں ہے, جو ان کا شعر آپ نے کوٹ کیا, ان کے دیوان چہارم میں وہ 1796 کا ہے. اس اعتبار سے آپ کی بات درست تھی. پھر آپ نے فورٹ ولیم کالج کا بھی تذکرہ کیا, انگریزوں کی پالیسی, جہاں پر اردو رسم الخط اور دیوناگری خط کو الگ الگ کیا گیا. اور پھر بتایا گیا کہ جو اردو رسم خط میں لکھا گیا اور فارسی آمیز اردو ہے تو وہ اردو ہے, اور جہاں سے فارسی الفاظ کو نکال دیے گئے اور سنسکرت کے الفاظ اب ٹھونس دیے گئے اس کے اندر تو وہ ہندی ہے. تو جھگڑا یقیناً ایک سامراجی نظام کی سازش کے تحت ہوا. وہ یہاں پر اپنا تسلط قائم رکھنا چاہتے تھے, وہ ان کی حکمت عملی تھی, اسٹریٹجی تھی, اس کے تحت انہوں نے کام کیا. لیکن اس کا شکار آج تک اردو ہے. اس کے نتائج بلکہ برے نتائج اردو کو بھگتنے پڑ رہے ہیں. ہمارے لیے بات کم سے کم ساؤتھ والوں کے لیے حیرت انگیز ہے کہ شمال میں مرد حضرات اردو سیکھتے تھے اور خواتین برج یا اودھی سیکھتی تھی, لیکن جنوب میں ایسا نہیں رہا. جنوب میں اردو ہی سیکھتے رہے مرد, اور عورتیں بھی اردو ہی سیکھتی رہیں. بہرحال میں اس کامیاب اور بھرپور لیکچر پر آپ کو مبارکباد دیتا ہوں. بہت ہی معلوماتی تھاٹ پرووکنگ لیکچر تھا آپ کا, جس سے ہم سب کو استفادے کا موقع ملا. اور میں پروفیسر امتیاز حسنین صاحب کو مبارکباد دیتا ہوں کہ آپ کی قیادت میں یہ 2 لیکچر منعقد ہوئے. بہت بہت مبارک, اور مجھے یہاں بات کرنے کا موقع دیا گیا, اس کے لیے شکر گزار.
بہت شکریہ سر, نہایت ہی معلوماتی اور دلچسپ تجزیے کے لیے. ہم اب پروگرام کے اختتام کی طرف رواں دواں ہیں, اور اس سے قبل کہ ورڈ آف تھینکس کے لیے میں آواز دوں, ایک ضروری بات کہنا باقی ہے. ایک شعر آپ کی خدمت میں, اور اس کے بعد پھر ہم آگے بڑھیں گے کہ یہ کیسا عشق ہے اردو زباں کا, یہ کیسا عشق ہے اردو زباں کا, مزہ گھلتا ہے لفظوں کا زباں پر. اس کے ساتھ میں پروفیسر امتیاز حسنین صاحب سے گزار ہوں کہ وہ آج کی اس سیشن کے چیئر پروفیسر نسیم الدین فریض صاحب کو میمنٹو اور سیپلنگ پیش کریں. گزار ہوں پروفیسر شگفتہ شاہین میم سے کہ وہ جناب امتیاز حسنین صاحب کو میمنٹو پیش کریں. آپ سب کا تہہ دل سے شکریہ ادا کرتے ہوئے اب میں ووٹ آف تھینکس کے لیے آخر میں پروفیسر مسرت جہاں صاحبہ ڈپارٹمنٹ آف اردو سے گزار ہوں کہ وہ ڈائز پہ تشریف لائیں اور ووٹ آف تھینکس پیش کریں.
معزز حاضرین جلسہ، السلام علیکم. آزاد چیئر مولانا آزاد نیشنل اردو یونیورسٹی کے زیر اہتمام منعقدہ اس پروگرام میں آپ تمام کا دل کی گہرائیوں سے شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں. عزت مآب وائس چانسلر صاحب گرچہ وہ چلے گئے جی جا کے آتا ہوں. سید عین الحسن صاحب کا شکر گزار ہوں کہ ان کی سرپرستی اور تعاون سے یہ پروگرام اتنا کامیاب ہوا. آپ ہمیشہ ادبی اور تحقیقی سرگرمیوں کو فروغ دیتے ہیں. آپ کے مثبت رویے اور سپورٹ کی وجہ سے یونیورسٹی میں خوشگوار اور علمی فضا بن گیا ہے. سر کا بہت شکریہ. آج کے مہمان مقرر کئی کتابوں کی مصنفہ پیگی موہن صاحبہ، جن کا شمار اہم ماہرین لسانیات میں ہوتا ہے اور جنہیں موسیقی سے بھی خصوصی شرف ہے. میں ان کی عمدہ پرمغز تقریر کے لیے دل کی گہرائیوں سے ان کا شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں. شکریہ میم. دکنی تہذیب و ثقافت کے علمبردار حیدرآباد کی ایک معزز علمی اور ادبی خانوادے سے تعلق رکھنے والے میری مراد جناب سجاد شاہد صاحب سے ہے. سر میں آپ کا شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں اور ہر دل عزیز ماہر دکنیات محترم پروفیسر نسیم الدین فریض صاحب کا میں شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں. سر بے پناہ صلاحیتوں کے مالک ہیں. ہم سب نے استفادہ کیا ہے. اساتذہ ہیں اور ماہر دکنیات تو میں کہہ رہی ہوں، لیکن شاعری پہ، افسانوی ادب پہ، غیر افسانوی ادب پہ، تمام مجموعی طور پہ پورے ادب پہ ان کی بڑی گہری نظر ہے. اور اس پہ ان کی اتنی سادگی اور انکساری ہے کہ یہ سادگی اور انکساری اور ان کی معلومات ان کو بہت ہی منفرد اور ممتاز بنا دیتی ہے. سر میں آپ کو بہت بہت شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں. پروفیسر سید امتیاز حسنین صاحب کا شمار قومی سطح پر ماہر لسانیات میں ہوتا ہے. سوشیو لنگوسٹکس آپ کا خاص میدان ہے. آپ فل برائٹ اسکالر رہے ہیں. یہ ہماری خوش بختی ہے، مانو کی خوش بختی ہے کہ پروفیسر امتیاز حسنین صاحب جیسا عالم اور ماہر لسانیات ہماری یونیورسٹی میں آزاد چیئر پر فائز ہیں. اور پروفیسر شگفتہ شاہین صاحبہ کا بھی دل سے شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں. OSD1 ہے اور نام ہی میں شگفتہ ہے اور زبان میں بھی شگفتگی ہے، تو وہ دل کو بہت بھاتی ہیں. صحیح معنوں میں انہوں نے اتنے اچھے لیکچر کا اہتمام کیا. میں جب سے OSD بنی ہے اس طرح کے پروگرام کا ایک سلسلہ چل پڑا ہے اور میں امید کرتی ہوں کہ یہ سلسلہ جاری رہے گا. جی. اسکول آف لینگویجز لنگوسٹک اینڈ ٹیکنالوجی کی ڈین پروفیسر عزیز بانو صاحبہ کا بہت بہت شکریہ. میم فارسی کی ممتاز اسکالر، بہت اچھی استاد اور انتظامی صلاحیتوں کی مالک ہیں اور ہم سب کی ہمیشہ حوصلہ افزائی کرتی ہیں. ہمیں کبھی یہ نہیں محسوس ہوتا ہے کہ یہ ہمارے اسکول کی ڈین ہے. ایسا لگتا ہے کہ جیسے وہ ہم میں سے ایک ہیں، بالکل بھی الگ نہیں ہے. بہت بہت اچھی بیٹی ہیں وہ. میں INC کے ڈائریکٹر جناب رضوان احمد صاحب کا شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں اور ان کی پوری ٹیم، عبید الرحمان صاحب، ڈاکٹر امتیاز احمد صاحب اور سبھی کا بھی میں شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں. اور انجینئرنگ سیکشن کے تمام ارکان کا شکریہ اور ہارٹیکلچر کے تمام لوگوں کا شکریہ جنہوں نے اتنی خوبصورتی سے یہ اسٹیج سجایا ہے. پیارو صاحب عابد عبدالواسی صاحب کا بھی بہت بہت شکریہ، اور ساؤنڈ سسٹم کے نگہداشت کر رہے جناب عبدالباسط صاحب، شیخ جاوید صاحب کا شکریہ، ہال میں موجود تمام اسکالرز، اسٹوڈنٹس اور دکنی ادب کے دوست، دکنی ادب اور زبان کے شہدائی جو یہاں تشریف فرما ہے ہال میں فردن تمام کا شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں. بہت بہت شکریہ.
گزارش ہے کہ نیشنل اینتھم کے لیے آپ سب کھڑے ہو جائیں. ہم وی آر گوئنگ ٹو اسٹارٹ دا نیشنل اینتھم.